Welcome to the San Ramon Valley Democratic Club. My name is Brody Hill. I serve as president. Rick Adler, our vice president, is here. Our board member, Cecilia Manalga, is here as our Zoom administrator. We have a great speaker tonight. We are very honored to have Congressman Ro Khanna as our speaker. But before we get started, I need to talk about some very sad news. One of our former board members, Seal McCloy, died of cancer on April 13th. She was a geologist and environmental scientist, but we knew her as someone who had positive energy and who worked hard for causes she believed in. She will be missed. There is a memorial for her in Danville on May 20th at the Peace Lutheran Church. And there's a very important election on June 7th for Contra Costa County positions. We're working to get our endorsed candidates elected. Those include the re-election of District Attorney Dinah Becton and Ben Tirio as sheriff and Floyd Andrews as county assessor. I want you to know that we should all be very proud of our San Ramon Valley Democratic Club. We have 12 volunteers placing information about our endorsed candidates at the homes of Democrats in Danville and San Ramon. By Tuesday, we will have distributed information to more than 1,100 homes. Thank you to our volunteers, Karen and Steve Beck, Sue Shattuck, Susan Mann, Veronica Benjamin, Rick Adler, Nicholas Harvey, Stephanie and Chris Taddeo, and our Supremo volunteers, Lori Wolf and Kelly Ryan, who by the middle of next week will have delivered more than 500 to 500 Democratic homes. And guess what? We got a new delivery of 500 door hangers. You still have a chance to volunteer to walk your neighborhood. Send an email to president@srvdems.org. I'll put that in chat. And also you can use that email to sign up for our emails if you don't already receive them. So thank you so much for joining us tonight. We are honored to be able to have Congressman Ro Khanna as our speaker. Actually, the first time we had Ro Khanna speak at our meeting was in 2014 in person at the Crow Canyon Country Club. That was when he first ran for Congress. And we thought he was terrific then. And since then, we have admired his work in Congress. He has progressive values and states that he only accepts campaign donations from individuals. For climate change, he signed on to the Green New Deal. Let's let the congressman tell us about the other legislation he sponsors and supports. And of course, we want to hear about his new book, Dignity in a Digital Age, Making Tech Work for Us. I began reading it and the first page grabbed my attention and I was hooked. It's well written and has great ideas. Thank you, Ro, for writing this book and thank you for coming to our meeting.
Thank you so much, Brody. Thank you for your leadership. It's great to be back with the San Ramon Democratic Club. I see folks I've known for many years and really appreciate everyone's activism. I'm sorry for your loss of the board member. It's I'm sure something that many people feel, and I know how much the activists, party leaders in these groups make such a big difference. My dad was a local precinct captain in Bucks County, Pennsylvania. He just retired. He's in his mid-70s, and that meant so much to him. So I have great respect for people who work in their local parties and contribute to our democracy. Let me just start out with some general reflections on the economy. I mean, overall, this president has done extraordinary from what he inherited. If you have to remember, when he came in, unemployment was nearly 7%. There was talk about what was going to happen to jobs, whether we were going to get them back. Unemployment today is 3.6%. We've passed the infrastructure bill to put people to work. We passed the American Rescue Plan to get people the help they needed, working families the help they needed, small businesses the help they needed, so that we could start to have a recovery. And people are spending money, which they weren't when the president took office. Now, there's no doubt that we've had challenges. I mean, I was back home last week, and the price of gas is up, the price of milk, the price of eggs, price of meat are up. And there's a reason for this. I mean, it's not that the consumer demand has been hurt. It is that the supply shocks. It has been the pandemic. I mean, the fact is that it's much harder for there to be shipping, for there to be transportation. Other countries have totally shut down. And that has led to prices being higher. And then, of course, Putin's war in Russia and invasion of Ukraine has led to increase in prices. One of the things that is in our control is the trade deficit. I mean, one of the reasons that's caused inflation and that has caused a less GDP growth today is that we buy way too many things from overseas instead of building those and making those here. And that's something I think that COVID has taught us, that you can't just offshore all of the production in this country. The trade deficit is accounting for why our GDP didn't grow. 3.2% loss of GDP growth because we've been sending money overseas to buy things instead of making things here. And I think one of the lessons in COVID is that we've got to produce in America again, make things in America again, make masks in America, make semiconductors in America, make the next generation of clean energy, clean steel, clean batteries in America, make electric vehicles in America. And this is why I'm so proud of my leadership on the Competes Act with Senator Schumer, Todd Young, and Mike Gallagher. It's going to be the largest investment in technology since the Kennedy years. And it's going to create technology hubs and new manufacturing across America. Intel is already doing it. We have $20 billion investment that Intel's going to make in Ohio, creating 7,000 new manufacturing jobs, 4,000 construction jobs, to build things in this country again, to build the next generation of semiconductors. And those are the things that are going to be de-inflationary. They're going to help our GDP. And I think the Democratic Party really needs to have a bold vision for economic revitalization, production across the country. Say what we're delivering and what we will deliver if we get the House majority back and it can grow our majority in the Senate. A message of economic revitalization. And that's really what my book touches on. It's Dignity in a Digital Age. And I write that, my district has $11 trillion of market cap. Think about that, $11 trillion, Apple, Google, Intel, Yahoo, Cisco, LinkedIn, Tesla. To put that in perspective, the entire Russian economy is 1.6 trillion in GDP. And yet that prosperity is not there, are those opportunities, not just across the country, but even in parts of our own region. And we have to do a far better job at bringing in new economic opportunity for places that have faced deindustrialization, where too many jobs have gone offshore, where too many jobs have gone to China and Mexico, and where people are saying, well, what's in it for me? Where my kids have to move. They can't stay in our hometowns, where they're facing dwindling communities. That's not the American dream. And there are going to be 25 million of these digital jobs. And one of the arguments I make is we've got to create these everywhere and prepare people for everywhere so that you can work where you want to work and get to define where you want to work in a post-COVID environment. And these jobs don't all require coding. Many of them are in manufacturing and retail and education and healthcare, and they pay $60,000, $70,000. So I'm actually working with Google to go to Galesburg, Illinois, where the Maytag factory left in 2004, and 4,000 refrigerating manufacturing jobs were shipped offshore, and we're creating jobs in Galesburg for young people, paying them a $5,000 stipend to get an 18-month course, and then they get a $60,000, $70,000 job at the end of it. And I've done this with other tech companies, Zoom, and in Claflin in South Carolina, and HBCU. We're doing it in the University of Reno in Nevada with Latino students. We're doing it in other rural communities in Beckley, West Virginia, and Paintsville, Kentucky, and Jefferson, Iowa. And, you see when you do it, even if they're 20 jobs, 30 jobs, the people see the sense of economic revival, economic hope, excitement for people in communities that have been totally left out. And, Bobby Kennedy in 1964 in Bedford-Stuyvesant went and said, we've got to have an economic revitalization in Brooklyn, basically New York. And he brought together community leaders, business leaders, clergy, and the government to revitalize that place. And it was very believable to folks. I think if we look at the 50%, 60% of this country that has been left out of economic prosperity, and if we're intentional about rebuilding the economic prospects there, and we really show people that job creation can happen, that their kids don't have to leave those towns, that they don't have to talk about a brain drain in the United States of America, that we can still start to earn back their trust. Because right now, so much of the anger in this country, I think, is the American dream slipping away for communities, slipping away for workers. I mean, they win the lottery. They work at Amazon. Amazon is one of the richest companies invented in human history, making more money than any company almost ever has. And they can only make $15, not the $30 that their parents made in manufacturing. And they have an algorithm as a boss, and they don't have any bargaining rights. That's what has to change. We have to have an economy that prospers, but an economy that works for every person in every community. That is the message I think the Democrats have to deliver on and continue to hammer, because that's a message they keep trying to distract us. They'll talk about going after and beating up on LGBTQ community. They'll talk about beating up on the trans community. They'll talk about distractions about critical race theory. But we need to talk about improving people's lives. Saying is that stuff's not going to bring back good jobs. That stuff's not going to help your kids succeed in the American dream. We have a real plan. We're going to help revitalize these communities. We're going to bring back American production. We're going to bring back good paying jobs. We're going to make sure that workers have dignity. And again, if we return to that theme of economic prosperity and opportunity for communities and understand people's anger, they're angry because for 20 years, their lives haven't changed. I went to Galesburg, Maytag plant had left. They said, President Obama spoke about us in the 2004 keynote speech. It's 2022, our lives are not any better. The jobs still haven't come. The economic opportunity still isn't here. We have to understand that is so many parts of this country. And we can't have a nation where all the wealth piles up in a few places in the hands of a few people and lots of other Americans are left out. They're angry because their jobs were taken from them, shipped to China, shipped to Mexico. They're angry because of corporate greed that made decisions to leave and to not treat workers fairly. If we stand up for the people who've been left out, and if we offer a real roadmap of economic success, economic revitalization, if we call on the country, business leaders and community leaders and educational leaders to rebuild America, I think Democrats have a very compelling message that will resonate across geography, across race, across gender. And that has really been the focus of my work. It's the focus of the book about how do we spread economic opportunity and prosperity across the country and in our own regions. How do we make sure that it's working for people in East San Jose who are rent burdened, can't afford to live in my own district? How do we make sure that their life improves with all the prosperity that we have? If we do that, I think that we have a very, very good chance to build on our majorities and to help stitch this country back together. Let me end with this, and then I want to take some questions if people have them. Don't give up on the 2022 election. These next guys, every day they keep saying, well, you keep saying that this election is the most important. Well, let me just say the 2016 election with Trump was the most important. 2018 was the most important. 2020 was the most important. And 2022, 2024 will be the most important because we're fighting Trumpism. And that is a totally different vision of the future. That is a vision that if the Republicans win, let's just be very clear what they're going to do. They're going to impeach Joe Biden. They're going to kick off Adam Schiff, Eric Swalwell off their committees. They're going to have Marjorie Taylor Greene and Jim Jordan and Lauren Boebert have hearings on Hunter Biden every other day. Now, that's what you want. If that's what the American people want for Congress, then they can go vote for the Republicans. But if they want a Congress that's actually going to focus on forgiving student loans and focus on creating jobs and bringing jobs and production back to America and increasing wages and helping people buy a home and increasing home ownership, then they can vote for the Democrats. They may not think we've done enough, but I'll tell you, the Republicans are going to do nothing. It's going to be a soap opera the entire time, and a destructive soap opera for the country. So we need to fight hard to make this clear, because if they win, that weakens Joe Biden. And then Trump is coming. I mean, Trump, trust me, Trump is running right after they win, if they win. He said as much. He said, if the Republicans win, I'm going to run. So we are fighting Trumpism in 22, and then we're fighting him again in 24. And this is, I have my disagreements with the president, but when I go on TV, I defend it, because this is not the time for risking disunity. We had all in a massive fight against a Republican Party that wants to destroy so many of the very institutions of our democracy, that does not believe in a multiracial, multi-ethnic democracy. They want to hold that back. And so I will be doing everything I can this cycle to help candidates in California and around the country take back the House and keep the House and expand the House and keep our Senate. And I really appreciate all that everyone here is doing in your way to support Democrats and support our president, support our party to be able to do that. So thank you for your activism, your leadership. And I so appreciate your inviting me to share some thoughts.
Thank you. That was just wonderful. We'll open it up for questions. Let's see.
I have a question.
Yeah, Richard has a question. Yeah.
Yeah, Congressman Khanna, again, happy to have you with us tonight. And when can we expect maybe to see elements of the Build Back Better pass, so that we can show the American people that the Democrats care about the working person and really want to help us get through these tough times?
Well, the press has reported this. So I'm meeting with Senator Manchin. I'm one of the few people. It's a group. We're trying to convince him to get to a yes. And I've said we need to do the bold climate package. We need to have the child care. I mean, you want to talk about what's going to be deflationary? Stop having Americans face this child care cost and have a lot of people return to the workforce if we can get child care passed. We need to cap the cost of prescription drugs. I'm sure everyone here knows someone who's paid too much for prescription drugs. That would help families. That's in Build Back Better. And we got to get the climate piece done, because that's the planet's burning. We can't not do that. And I said to Senator Manchin, we're open to compromise. I mean, if he wants to have some provisions to increase short-term production and to have more carbon capture money, I don't love it. I don't love permitting on certain of the natural gas pipelines he wants, but I'm open to compromise, because we have to get something done. So we'll see if we can get some compromise, and that's what it comes down to, if we can get something passed. So these next few weeks are going to be critical.
Thank you.
Who's working with Kristen Sinema?
But I think she will. If Senator Manchin comes along on a deal with the president, I think she will come along. But I think the key is to get Manchin and the White House to agree first.
Okay. Other questions?
Looks like Harry Weiner.
Oh, okay, good. Thank you, guys. I didn't see that. Harry?
Looks like, yeah, there you go.
All right. Thanks for coming, and I appreciate you as a congressperson, and I'm so happy to get to talk to you. I have heard that the January 6th committee has found enough evidence that members of the government committed criminal sedition and participated in and planned the overthrow of the duly elected government in contravention of the 14th Amendment. I have also heard that the committee does not intend to transmit this evidence to the Attorney General. Is this true? And what does the Congress intend to do to stop the GOP from stealing the Congress by voter suppression, pandering, and killing democracy killing the democratic republic.
Thank you, Harry. I share your passion, your anger at what happened, and your concern about our state of our democracy. It's not true that they won't transmit the report. They will be transmitting the report to Merrick Garland with the findings of wrongdoing, and some of them that they've characterized as criminal wrongdoing. I think what they've said is it's not their decision whether to prosecute. The decision is going to be Merrick Garland's because he's the sitting attorney general and he gets to make the decisions independently with career prosecutors. But the report, Jamie is a good friend. We were just on NPR together. If you Google it, it's a 7-minute interview, and I'd be curious what you think, Jamie and I did, about what the Democrats need to do. But on that, he said that the report is pretty scathing, and they're going to be sending it to the Justice Department. On voting rights, as you know the story, I mean, we haven't been able to get the 51 votes to overcome the filibuster. We've recommended some things through executive action that the president could take, but we're going to be fighting this election with one arm tied behind our back in some of these states, which is why we really have to mobilize. It's a very challenging situation, and that's why they did it. They've got an advantage of a few percent in some of these states.
Whoa. That's no fun. Oh, Ellis, you have a question?
Yeah. Thank you, Ro. And by the way, to the last gentleman, the January 6th committee is supposed to go public with hearings on June 9th. Rachel Maddow announced that a few minutes ago. What I wanted to talk to you about, Ro, is Ukraine. They're saying that Biden will not get reelected if Ukraine isn't resolved very quickly. If we continue to have this kind of stalemate, if we don't get to the point that Secretary Austin talked about, where Putin is not only driven out of Ukraine, but cannot do this anymore, Biden will be in trouble. Although I know that the domestic economic picture is very important to Biden's reelection and us retaining both houses, the Ukraine is also equally important. I've been pushing for inviting the Ukraine into NATO. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, I agree with you that we have to stand up for Ukraine and figure out a way to end this conflict. But the only way to end the conflict, I think, is to have Ukraine push Russia out enough that Putin sees the writing on the wall. Because I don't think, look, Putin is brutal. Putin is brutal. And my concern is their tactic could be what they did in Syria, which is just have a bombardment and stay there for years and try to kill Ukrainians. I mean, we're underestimating how many Ukrainian troops have actually died. I mean, it's not Russia has been pushed, but Ukraine has had a lot of casualties as well. It's not a pretty situation. So I think we ought to be increasing the aid. President Biden has offered $33 billion. That's a lot of money, but I support it. I think we ought to be providing them with the weapons. But I don't think we ought to be committing American troops, which is what a NATO commitment would do, because I don't think American public has to get into an actual war with American personnel with Putin. And the president has resisted doing that. The president has resisted actually having American service members enforce a no-fly zone or be in a war. And I support the president in that decision. And so I think our best chance is to continue to escalate the aid to Ukraine. But I share your concern. I mean, obviously on a moral level, a humanitarian level, there's going to be so many people dying. And, you know, it's a tough political situation for the president.
Well, if we invited him to NATO, it would say to Putin, enough. We're not taking it anymore. It would really draw a line, and we would have to stand up to that line. But right now, we're just kind of boxing with the bully. So $33 billion today, it's going to buy more bullets and armament for the Ukraine. But they're not going to be able to push back Putin to the point where he won't dare do this again. Inviting Ukraine into NATO would push it to the point. Finland's going to vote to get into NATO. Sweden and Norway also are going to go into NATO. So we ought to invite Ukraine in. Anyway, that's my 2 cents. Thank you very much, Ro. Good seeing you
Thank
again.
you, Al. It's always good seeing you.
Thank you.
Are there any questions? Any hands up? Steve?
Yes, I have a question. First of all, I really enjoy the work that you have done in Congress. I think that you've done a great job.
Thank you.
And for the last 2 years now, as you indicated, the Democrats, at least on the federal level, have been focusing on traditional sort of American values and positions for the jobs, the child welfare, the reduced education, and all of those issues, which are all great. And I know we all support those a lot. The Republicans are sort of sidestepping that. They really are not recognizing it. And they're going right to a cultural war. And who votes, who doesn't vote, what's taught in school, what's not taught in school, who has these rights, who has those rights. As I look at the landscape, and if you look at the polls, they're winning that debate. And are the Democrats at the national level willing to really go out and fight that cultural war, as well as they're fighting the other situations? If you just look at the situation that happened this afternoon in Georgia, there should be massive outrage about that, but I don't hear it. So maybe I'm looking at the wrong venues. I'm not sure, but I'm just sort of curious if you're comfortable with how the Democrats are fighting that cultural side of this. That's it.
Absolutely. Maybe I can make this the last question, as they have a call at 10:30. I'm still in Washington, but I really appreciate this. First, I think the Democrats have to take back the idea of patriotism. I have said this to a number of my colleagues. They some agree, some don't. I as a son of immigrants who was born in 1976 in Philadelphia, our bicentenary, I still believe America is the greatest country in the world. And I think there's a reason millions of American people want to come to America and not go to China. And so often, I think the Democrats start off with everything that's wrong and not right about America. There are a lot of things that need to be improved. I think we have to start off with saying we are the greatest country, and there are things that we need to do collectively to make sure we stay the greatest country and to fix the things that are wrong. And I think that puts people more at ease, because I think most Americans believe that we're an extraordinary country. And most Americans want some leaders who will celebrate that and who will help America remain strong, and will make sure that the American dream is still possible for everyone. So one, I think we have to have that orientation. Two, I think we have to have an orientation that no one should be embarrassed about being American, embarrassed about being white. I mean, some people feel embarrassed about being white. Great, Abraham Lincoln was white. People who died in Normandy were white. Doesn't mean we don't teach honestly about history, 250 years of slavery, 100 years of Jim Crow, because great countries teach honestly. But I don't think that we should make people embarrassed of who they are. And we have to address that head on, because that's what's going on, the fear in some of these communities. And we should not engage in sort of purity politics, and whether on the right or the left, just canceling people that because they may not agree with us. I think we have to engage with respect and not come off like we're judging people. There was a focus group in Pennsylvania, and they just described the Republicans as crazy, but they described the Democrats as preachy. And in the end, a lot of the voters picked crazy over preachy because they didn't want someone to vote for someone who they thought was better than them. So I think we have to have a real sense of respect when we go in and talk to voters, and not judge them or make them feel like we're judging them. These are some of the things I think that will get us in a place where the cultural issues aren't paramount, and where we can focus on then saying, here's our vision to help improve your life and give you more opportunity and economic prospects. But I think if we are always found on the back foot of patriotism, it becomes much harder to make that case.
I agree. Thank you.
Those are good insights. Yes. Laura, do you have a quick question?
Yeah, hi, this is Chris. Hi, Congressman. I just
Hi.
sort of piggybacking off the last answer. I thought, what is it that you would say in a soundbite if you were talking to a group of Republicans today?
I would say we offshored millions of jobs to China, into Mexico. That was a huge mistake. We should all agree that we're going to bring back production in this country. And we need to do that to make sure that we win and not China. And let's rally this country and unify around how we can produce things, industrialize things, make things in America again, and how we can ensure that America wins in the 21st century.
Thank you.
Excellent. You know, you mentioned bringing rural communities, industrialization. Do you know of one that has worked successfly that you could give us?
Yeah, quite a few. I mean, look, Pittsburgh, of course, did it in a mid-sized city, and Columbus has done it in Ohio. But there are rural towns that have done it as well. I mean, Jefferson, Iowa has helped bring a lot of digital jobs. Beckley, West Virginia is doing it. Paintsville, Kentucky is doing it. So between manufacturing and technology jobs, you can really help start revitalizing places across the country.
Yeah, that's good to know. Ro, you said
Sure.
you had to go, and are you? I'd like to ask you more questions, but if you have to go, I understand. We really enjoyed your insights, and I really appreciate your time.
I really enjoyed it. I'll look forward to doing it again, and I am very appreciative that you had me and invited me. I was really touched by that.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ro.
Thank you.
Well, I thought he was going to stay later. So I'm sorry, it's only 7:36. So what we can do is we still have a lot of other speakers here that we're going to talk earlier. We have a few. Are there any comments about Ro's talk first, or should we go with our other speakers? Okay. I know one person that wanted to speak was Veronica Benjamin. Veronica, are you still here? Yes. I don't know if she's. Veronica, are you here? Okay. Tamisha Walker, you're with Safe Return in Contra Costa County. Would you like to talk a few words about your organization and what you're doing?
Oh, sure. I'm sorry, I was driving, calling to listen in. It's been a very, very interesting listening to the previous conversation. I feel a lot more informed. Yeah, Executive Director of Safe Return Project in Contra Costa County. We just celebrated over a decade of serving and advocating for formerly incarcerated, convicted people and their families here in Contra Costa. I'm a founder of Safe Return, been organizing and advocacy around racial justice and equity across Contra Costa. We started in Richmond. And yeah, a lot of our work is around policy advocacy, so reducing barriers to jobs, housing, voting rights, et cetera. Also empowering and invested in the leadership and organizing capacity of individuals and their families impacted by the criminal legal system. We have our organization is the head of our county's district attorney accountability and co-governance table, where we meet often with the district attorneys to discuss procedural justice, transparency, and accountability. And so I don't know what else I could say except for, 12 years ago, there was no reentry network in Contra Costa County, and now we've invested over $200 million to make sure we don't send people back to jails and prisons, and that's safe return.
That's wonderful. Is your accountability, is that under the county Public Protection Committee, or is it a different committee that oversees that?
No, so it's like the JJCC and which is our Juvenile Justice Coordinating Council, which they return also has representation on, as well as our Racial Justice Society at the county. This
Your sound's going a little bit haywire. We're having a hard time hearing you.
Can you hear me?
Okay, yes, now we can.
It's a grassroots led table. It's not a county table. It's led by our organization partnership with it. Yes.
Oh, don't you get money from the county? No?
No, Safe
Oh,
Return is not a county funded
where-
organization.
Where do you get your money? From grants?
Individual donations and foundation funding, yes.
How many people have you helped so far? Like in this past year?
Just in this past year, we through rapid response funding and support, we've probably engaged over 1,000 formerly incarcerated, convicted people and their families, with over $90,000 worth of direct funding to whatever they needed, whether it was rent or utilities or food. Over 300 young people impacted by the criminal legal system was provided over $50,000 worth of gift cards for their individual needs. And as you know, like any policy advocacy we do, it impacts the formerly incarcerated, convicted population as a whole across the county.
Do you have any educational? I was thinking that you educate people to be able to go back into work the right way, but that's
Yeah,
not.
so we are not a reentry service provider. We're a power building grassroots policy advocacy organization that's ran by formerly incarcerated, convicted people for formerly incarcerated, convicted people. But we do have a 12-month paid organizer fellowship where we do professional and personal development as well as organizing training. It's our workforce development model for formerly incarcerated, convicted people. So you actually have to be formerly incarcerated to even get in the program. And we rarely ever hire individuals who are not systems impacted.
Oh, you're saying the people that work there are actually formerly incarcerated too?
Yes, I myself am a formerly incarcerated, convicted person and the director of this organization.
Oh, wow. Okay. Okay. That sounds wonderful. I mean, thank you so much for doing this, this work. Does anyone have a question for Tamisha offhand? If not, thank you so much, Tamisha. We could, Veronica, are you there? I see Shirley Shalangoski. Would you like to tell us about the Clean Money campaign?
Okay, I have to unmute here. Sorry, had a class tonight. Yeah, basically, we just lost a bill on disclosure clarity, that didn't pass.
Wait, why don't you explain from the beginning? Because I don't know a lot of people here even know what the Clean Money campaign is.
Oh, okay. Okay, the Clean Money campaign, we try to pass a lot of bills for transparency and getting big money out of politics. And so we have a couple bills forward this year, and one of them is AB 1416. That's the Ballot Disclose Act. That's going forward. It'll probably proceed again in June. It's passed the Assembly and it's got to go to the Senate now.
Okay.
And so that will be to Senator Glazer's committee. And
Does he
yeah.
support it, Senator Glazer?
he will never say. He's been pretty
That's
generous in
right.
support. He will he's generally supported our bills in the past, but he didn't support this last one that we just lost, the disclosure clarity one, cleaning up the California Disclose Act that we passed several years ago, and that just identified the top funders of all of the the political ads. And so there's a lot of
Oh,
loopholes
you're talking about like ads on social media or TV or what?
on TV. There's people who
Okay.
are using the loopholes, and we're trying to clear those up, but it didn't pass. So yeah, so we're just holding off on that one.
Where did it not pass? What? committee?
It was a Senate committee, and I'm trying to think. I can't remember if it was appropriations or no, not appropriations. I think it was
Election?
elections. Yeah.
Yeah.
It didn't pass there, so
Oh,
it's
dear.
dead for the year. We have to restart over next year on that one. But
Doesn't Senator Glazer head the elections committee or not?
yes, Senator Glazer didn't vote in favor of that bill.
Oh dear. You know,
So,
I don't know if anyone has gone to Senator Glazer's office to lobby for a bill, but yes, you can lobby for 45 minutes and you can have 8 or 10 people in the office and he will not tell you how he feels about it at all. Right.
yeah, he won't tell you.
Yeah.
So
So I
anyways,
wonder
we
why
have,
he didn't like it. I mean, can we interview him? Should we write him and ask him why he didn't like that bill?
something about the bids during emergency times. I don't even really understand
Okay,
all the intricacies of it, but they're going to try to rework it next year. And even Trent admitted there may be a few problems with it. So
okay.
they'll start a new bill next year and make some amendments, but he asked to make the amendments and they didn't even go for that. So
Oh, and that was the one to identify the top funders on TV ads that didn't, are you talking about that?
to do some cleanup and some of the bidding process on things. So
What do you mean by bidding process? I'm not sure if I know.
I'm probably not the expert to tell you about that
Okay,
either,
okay,
but yeah, I'm not an expert on that, but I know I
okay, we'll look
testified
it
in
up.
favor of it. But
Yeah,
yeah, you can go to our website, www.yesfairelections.org.
can you put it in the chat?
Sure, if I'm able to. I know one time I wasn't able to write it in the chat, but
Oh, okay, what is it? I'll write it, www.
yesfairelections.org.
Oh, yeah,
Has to have the yes before it.
yes, fairelections.org, yes.
Yes,
Well,
okay.
why don't you tell us about the Ballot Disclose Act that did pass? So that's going to become law?
No, it's only passed the assembly. It's got to go through the
Oh,
Senate
right,
still.
okay,
Yeah,
okay,
it's got to
that's
go through
right.
the Senate. Basically, what the Ballot Disclose Act says is that, or what it will do is take those names from the ballot pamphlet book that we get with it that a lot of people don't read, and put the names of the top supporters and the top opponents directly on the ballot itself, so that
Yes.
when people go to vote, it'll remind them, oh yeah, League of Women Voters is for this measure. And maybe I didn't have time to research it, but I'm pretty sure they did. So it's kind of trusting some of your groups.
Yes,
Um,
I think that's a wonderful idea because people, I mean, they may read the pamphlet, but they probably don't. It looks pretty dry when you get the big pamphlet, when there's a lot of things, and to have it right on the ballot is really important. The people who are funding it or not funding it, that can make a big difference in how it works. Yeah.
and even if you do, sometimes you need a little reminder, like especially if you go to the actual poll, because it'll be directly on the state initiative ballot measures. It's not for candidates, just for the ballot initiatives.
Right, and yeah, it's on the ballot, yes, the actual ballot that we vote on, right?
Right, it'll be on
Yeah.
the ballots, but only on the initiatives, not on the candidates. So
Oh,
yes.
okay, right, okay, we should make that distinction, yeah.
Yep.
Are you going to go lobby Senator Glazer about this, or just wait and see what happens?
We will be. We haven't organized that yet, but that will be coming up.
Okay, is there anyone here interested in going to talk to Senator Glazer? He's a Democrat. Ray's laughing.
Sort of.
I mean, you know, the more people we get, the more important it is. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you. Let's see, is Veronica still here? It looks like Veronica's gone. Is Veronica gone, Cecilia?
Yes, Veronica is not
Oh.
here.
Too bad. Okay, yes. Well, are there any other announcements or ideas that people are interested in knowing about? Is, does anybody want to walk their neighborhood or just walk a precinct? Stephanie or Chris, why don't you tell us about your escapades and walking? Y'all have been wonderful volunteers.
Yeah, no, it's been a really great experience. We did the Canyon Crest neighborhood in San Ramon. And it was a really positive experience. We pretty much kept ourselves, but we enjoyed doing it. And it was nice. It's nice to see, you know, neighborhoods outside of your own immediate place. Yeah.
I did some walking and I did what you're probably not supposed to do. I would go up and ring the doorbell.
Yeah, we didn't do
I
that.
put
No,
the door
no.
handle on
Yeah.
and, you know, and door hanger and material. And usually then you know, they would answer the door. I had a lot, I've talked to maybe about 25 people total. And when I talked to them, I'd say, do you know there's an election June 7th? And only one person knew that there was an election, you know, and I explained to them it was the county and that's it. There's no like, you know, there is a primary and we also vote on our primary candidates and then that will go to November ballot. But the county, that's it. It's June 7th. So that's why it's really, really important. And I explained to them about Dinah Becton and how we tried to get her in 4 years ago. She has a judge of 22 years, and then we got her in, and she's been real successful. She's changed the department to make it more efficient and has wonderful, doing a wonderful job. And there is one person who is running against her who's a Democrat. But her name is Mary Knox. Does anybody know about the controversy of Mary Knox? Raise your hand.
Kind of, yeah.
A few people do, not many. Okay, so Mary Knox, Newell Arnrich, our Danville Town Council person who used to be a Democrat, he had I thought it was gonna be like a meet and greet for her. And Veronica and Karen Beck and I heard about it. And I actually went to Patrick Veneer, who is a deputy district attorney in San Jose. And I said, give me some questions. You know, and I wrote all these questions to ask Mary Knox about her candidacy as a district attorney. And we got there and it wasn't a meet and greet. It was a fundraiser. And a funny story is like 20 or 30 years ago, I used to work as a communications department in the Community Presbyterian Church in Danville. And I was one of 2 Democrats there. And so when I went to this fundraiser, guess who I saw? There must have been about 20 people that I knew that went to that goes to the Community Presbyterian Church. It was all Republicans. It's all funded by Republicans. How many of you were here many, many years ago when we had our Congressman Bill Baker? That was many years ago. Okay, good. There was a few. Anyway, we had this Congressman Bill Baker, and he was a staunch Republican. He was very old, and we tried to get a Democrat elected, and
Ellen Tauscher.
Ellen Tauscher, yes, and she lost the first time, but she won the second time. And anyway, Bill Baker has donated to Mary Knox's campaign over $1,000. So
That says a lot.
yeah, yeah, I know. So he's, you know, her, and also, well, I'll tell you about our Sheriff Livingston if you don't already know, but she and the sheriff speak at each other's fundraisers. So,
Yeah, you know what side of the bread she butters.
yes. Does anyone not know about Sheriff Livingston? Oh, we all know. Very good. So we all know, just to recap about Sheriff Livingston. As you know, in Danville, we had police officer Andrew Hall kill 2 people. And for the first one that he killed, innocent people, he was sentenced by a judge of 6 years. And after he was sentenced to 6 years by a judge, Sheriff Livingston, our current sheriff, said, Andrew Hall serves with honor and distinction. And you just go, what? So obviously we need to get rid of our sheriff. Back in 2017 and 2018, we had meetings about our sheriff. We had public defenders for immigrants come and speak at the meeting. We even had the sheriff come speak one time. We had a panel discussion, and because of his DACA, the way he treated DACA people. So what happens is, if you are an immigrant and you are in jail, and then you get out of jail because you've served your time, he would alert the Department of Homeland Security when they got out. And so then the Department of Homeland Security would get them, and maybe it was just a minor traffic ticket or whatever it was. Then they're deported, and sometimes they were the husband who was making a lot of money for his family back here. So it was awful. And Sheriff Livingston, actually, I've heard, will still, he doesn't do the obvious part. But he puts it on a website that these people are being released, and the Department of Homeland Security can view that website. So that was the issue back in 2017 and 2018 about our sheriff. It goes back, we've been wanting to have a new candidate for a long time. So we're very, very happy we have a candidate running. Does anyone know about Ben Terrio?
Terrio.
Yeah. So Ben, it looks like it should be Theriot or Thurio, but it's Ben Terrio. And real quick, Ben he's a Native American. He was born and raised on a reservation up in Montana. When he graduated from high school, he went into the Air Force. And when he got out of the Air Force, he became a Richmond police officer. He's been there for like 30 years, and he's been he's been voted head of the Police Officers Union Association many years. I really like him, and he is running for sheriff. And I've talked to Ben on many Zoom meetings. I've talked to him in person. He's intelligent and he's very honest. And he's so honest that he says, look, when if I get to be sheriff, I will try to do everything, but I can't do everything. He's that honest about what can be happening. But anyway, he's a wonderful candidate. So that's why we're working so hard to get Ben Terrio elected.
I think Alice had a question.
Oh, I thought your hand was up from earlier.
No, this is a new one. It's tying the story of the sheriff and the DA together. When the first killing happened in Danville, the sheriff had to prepare a report, and he basically stonewalled the DA and not preparing the report. Then when the DA finally got the report from the sheriff, a single person was assigned in the DA's office to investigate the allegations against the police officer, which the sheriff kind of blew off and said he didn't do anything wrong. Anyway, the investigation got 6 months underway, and the person who was doing the investigating retired. And Dinah Becton was left holding the bag at that point. The sheriff had been stonewalling her, and now her office had stonewalled her. And what she did was create a committee of 4 district attorneys, and they all saw what each other was doing as far as the investigation, and they eventually put together a case, the first one ever in California to convict a police officer in a police-related shooting like this. So Dinah Becton is not just your average DA. She's the first person of color to be DA in Contra Costa, the first woman to be DA in Contra Costa,
Judge.
and the first DA in California to put away a policeman for doing wrong. She is really a hero in her community.
She was a judge too. You're
And
forgetting
of
that.
course, like Brody said, she's a judge. But she is a hero for us, and we should keep that in mind and present her that way when we're talking to voters, that she had the guts to put away a policeman, the sheriff's office, and Mary Knox, who works in her office, are basically at war with her. And she's carrying on this war on our behalf. So keep that in mind.
Yeah, Mary Knox, because Dinah came in and tried to get things organized so it would work
Right.
for her, her job was changed and she felt like she was demoted. So a lot of the people who work there feel bad because of the reorganization.
The pecking order
So-
has changed.
Yes.
Because,
And
You put in your own people too.
Also, I wanted to say something else about Mary Knox, because when I heard her speak at Robert Storr's house, he's also on the town council, she would talk about, oh, she's going to lock up people and she's going to, make criminals stay in the jail and all that. So she would talk about the slash and grab robberies in Walnut Creek. Okay. And she mentioned how these people are now released, and she didn't say it, but she made it infer that it was Dinah Becton who let them out.
Mhm.
I mean, everyone there, that's what they thought. Oh, our current district attorney let them out. And it turns out that that Dinah Becton actually brought charges, really strong felony charges against them, as strong as she could. But when they came up to a judge, the judge is the person who, Gray, do you want to talk about it? You know this better than me.
Well, it's just that the judge sets the bail and releases the
Yeah.
the people who've gone to court.
Yeah.
And it's just a complete lie that's a deliberate distortion of the situation, that people think that the DA lets people out of jail. DA
Yeah.
has no power to do that.
Right, and they don't know that there's a state law that passed called no cash bail. So if you're really rich, you can post bail and get out until your court date. So for poor people, they'd have to stay in jail. Sometimes it was like 2 years before their court date. And so they passed this law called no cash bail. And so a lot of people don't even know that the reason why they were let out, they're processed and they're released until their court date because of that state law, not because of Dinah Becton. And as Ray said, it was the judge who said that they could be released without bail.
Yeah, well, it's just, we had our picnic last weekend, and there was a young man who had, and with his family and children and so on, who had been hit in the face by some crazy person. And he was very upset that the crazy person was out on the street. And he said, and Mary Knox would not let him out because he had been, he had been talked to by the Mary Knox supporters. No, Mary Knox wouldn't let him out because she's both judge and jury and DA and policeman. Well, that's what he thinks anyway. That's the problem.
Mhm.
Yeah, so that's why you have to, when you talk to people, you really have to make sure they understand that distinction.
Even on the next door, which is this nonsensical bulletin board that people use, I've seen people say, vote for Mary Knox, she'll be tough on crime.
Right, yeah. That's-
Implying, of course, that Dan Becton lets people out of jail. Well,
Right.
anyway, it's very frustrating, but it's just shades of Trump over and over again. The big lie and relentless lies.
Mhm,
And
mm,
then the people are, let's say, not discerning,
yes.
who are listening.
Mm.
Ugh.
Does anyone else, let's see, who else has something to report? Valerie, you had your hand up earlier. I'm sorry. Are you there? Okay. Well, oh, so, okay, so we know about Ben. Now we know, let's talk about Floyd Andrews. Does anyone know what position she's running for?
No.
The assessor.
Yeah, the county assessor. And we've had our assessor be Gus Kramer for over 30 years. Someone told me that there was, and I don't have the reference, so I don't know if this is true. Someone told me that he will increase your property taxes if you do something he doesn't like, like his personal friends, or if to his personal friends, he will lower your property taxes. I don't know if that's true or not. Although I sort of remember, Ellis, do you remember that? Do you have information about that?
It's not true. Prop 13 says that they can't increase your property tax more than 2% a year until you sell the property. And that's just the law of the land. What Kramer's been charged with was not reporting his own real estate holdings. You would think that the assessor has to be very transparent about that. Instead, he got in on special deals with developers and things like that and didn't report that he owned certain property. As a consequence, he was fined. He was fined several $1,000s for doing this. And the real fact of the matter is nobody's challenged him since he was a little kid. Say, they haven't challenged him for 20, 30 years. And now finally somebody is challenging him because they're tired of this corruption.
Yeah.
And it's been out and out corruption. He's taken advantage of his position, finding out about deals. And what happens is that when a property is sold, the assessor goes in and determines what its new value is for tax purposes. So that's a very powerful position. And apparently he's abused that, gotten his hand caught in a cookie jar and gotten fined.
Thank you for enlightening us. Yes, yes, thank you. The candidate who is running for assessor is Floyd Andrews. And I asked Floyd, I said, what kind of name is Floyd? And she said, she thinks it's a hillbilly name. At least to help me remember her name, Floyd Andrews. And she is an attorney. So she has her law degree, has been practicing attorney for over 20 years. And which is the clincher, she has a degree in ethics.
Ooh.
So anyway.
Columbia.
So that's why we're walking for Floyd Andrews also.
Degree in what?
Yeah, by the way, Brody, add 250 houses to your list of houses that are.
Oh, I didn't mention your name as volunteers. I'm sorry.
Sharon surpassed 250 today, and
Oh,
we
wow.
have 41 to go in our precinct
That's
as of this
wonderful.
afternoon.
Yes. Oh, thank you. I'm so sorry. Yeah, I was trying to.
That's all right.
Way to go, Sharon.
Thank you.
The reason why I didn't remember Ellison and Sharon had walked because I picked up the door hangers from their house. They didn't pick them up from my house. So I had them on my list. Yes.
So the next time we'll know that we got to go to your house and I'll bring the door hanger.
No, that's wonderful.
Yes.
Oh, wow. That's a lot.
Well, we double team the streets.
Good.
Yeah, that's two of you.
It's fun to go out with somebody else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not as much walking.
Fun.
Yeah. Oh,
I
there's
got a
been-
call. I got a call from Patrick Venero wanting to go out and put up some Becton signs and just, get in the car together and just go on a drive,
Oh, yes. Can someone do that?
Oh yeah, we're already gonna do
Danville?
it.
Yeah.
Did you
Well, I
get a
got-
big pile of Becton signs, Rick?
Yeah, And I put some up in Danville. I haven't gone back to see if they're still there, but
Ours were stolen.
yeah, that's par for the course.
Yeah, that happened to Karen Beck. I think she's had two Dinah Beck.
Oh,
and
yeah,
two,
yes.
Maybe it was Newell stole them. No.
yeah,
You should put some,
Karen Beck wrote a letter to Newell Arnrich because she said, you're my Danville Town Council person, and you you endorsed Sheriff Livingston. You know, the person that, anyway, so yes, it's pretty bad.
I like Karen. She speaks her mind.
Yeah, and so I put in the chat, I put some events that are coming up. On Saturday, April 30th, we have End Police Corruption. And this is specifically against Sheriff Livingston. It's in Antioch. There's a link. On May 3rd, we have the meeting in the San Ramon Valley Climate Coalition. We could even have Sarah talk about that. It's at 7 o'clock on Monday, May 3rd. On Wednesdays, we could have Cecilia talk about keep the Senate blue. So you get to call voters in Arizona and Nevada to keep our Democratic senators. What's that? Mark Kelly and who else?
Kristen Cinema.
No.
She's blue.
We're only calling for Mark Kelly.
And who's the
Actually,
one in Nevada?
Kristen Cinema is not up for re-election this year.
Oh.
Okay, and who's the senator in Nevada?
Catherine Casto, I forget her last name.
That's why I had you say it, because I can't.
Yeah.
That was a trap.
Yes, clearly.
But anyway, Cecilia, you guys meet every Wednesday evening at 6 o'clock.
Actually,
correct?
we meet every Wednesday from 5 to 7, and then also Saturdays from 10 to noon.
Yes. I mean,
both
get
times.
involved. There's lots of things you can do. If you don't want to walk neighborhoods, you can make phone calls, and they're probably very easy to make, right? You're just telling
Yes.
people to become registered Democratic voters. Yeah.
They're actually, and we're also calling into the Central Valley as well, which are also very easy calls to make.
And what are you asking them to do? Just
So
to,
we're actually trying to find out their issues, tell them about the election coming up on the 7th. Like someone mentioned that people don't realize that the election is right around the corner. But easy calls.
and we have, that's what, Josh Harder, who's in what area? What
So
city?
Josh Harder is CD9, and then we have
So what city is that? So we know.
that is like it's actually part of Contra Costa.
I
And
think that's Modesto.
yeah, something
It's
like
the
that.
major city in Harder's.
yeah, but he also
Central Valley.
now has part of Contra Costa as well.
Huh.
And Tracy and that area. So that's much of the
Okay.
area that he had before. And then CD 13 has Phil Arbaio and I cannot remember the other person's name who was endorsed by KDEM. But two Democrats, as I don't know that there's actually a Republican running against them right now.
Okay.
And then in CD 22, we have Rudy Salas, who is the only Democrat
What
running against Valadeo.
Ooh, David Valadeo.
Yes, and we also
Ooh.
have, if you want to go a little bit further than local canvassing, we have canvassing every Saturday in CD 22 in Hanford.
I heard that you're going to be taking, or somebody said you might be taking transit to get there.
Yes, I am taking Amtrak. It takes 4
Amtrak.
hours. I go down the night before and stay all day Saturday. There is housing, supporter housing available there if you need a place to stay. We don't have a lot of it. We do have some limited supporter housing. And it's really great. We have really good conversations with people, asking them. We actually start the conversation with, if you were mayor of Hanford, what issues would you want to get resolved? And the conversation has been fabulous with all of the voters that we talked to. Really, really quite inspiring.
And how many, do you do that every Saturday?
Every Saturday. And we've had about 20 people every the last couple of Saturdays that we've done. We have 20 people that will be here there this coming Saturday.
I think you're doing that. There's Indivisible and there's other groups that.
Yeah, there's a bunch of groups that are sort of coalescing with this. We give you some breakfast and a light breakfast and some coffee and stuff when you arrive in the morning. You go out for a couple hours, knock on doors, come back, have some lunch. On this Saturday, we're going to provide a local Mexican lunch, and then you go out in the afternoon for another couple hours, and then come back, recap what you've done, and head back home. And I'm taking Amtrak back home.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful.
Brody, could I bring some good news?
Yes.
People on this call may not have heard this. Mark DeSaulniers' opponent has been disqualified, and our own Katie Rickless, who's the chair of the Contra Central Committee, did the deed. It turns out that the opponent that registered to be Mark's opponent was only a citizen for 3 years. And the rules say you have to be a US citizen for 7 years to run for Congress. So Brody gets a notch on her belt for knocking out a Republican before he even got to the polls. And Mark DeSaulniers has to be the luckiest
Congressman.
Not just congressman, political person, because it always seems like he runs either against nobody in this case or against somebody that we can't even remember. But don't worry about Mark, and I think that's good news that that's one seat that's already safe.
Yeah, yes.
And he looks like he's healthy again.
Yeah.
Well, he was on a town hall this afternoon that we saw, and he was in California, and he said his doctor didn't want him to go back to DC. So it worried me a little when I heard him say that. But he looked good on the town hall Zoom meeting this afternoon.
No, I thought he does stay in our district. That's why he has so many local town halls. I mean, yeah.
Well, he could have a town hall from any place he has a computer.
Well, I know, but
Now look at where Ro was in DC.
yeah.
No, he was in his car.
In a
Right.
limo. It looked like a limo.
Anyone else want to talk? Sarah, do you want to talk about your group or not?
Yeah, about the Climate Coalition, I'd be happy to. Thanks, Brody. So for those of you who don't know or are unfamiliar, a couple of us in San Ramon created a local organization basically called the San Ramon Valley Climate Coalition. And we meet once a month and we talk about action items that we can each take every month to persuade the San Ramon City Council to declare a climate emergency and then include that in an agenda for a future meeting. So it's a really cool action-oriented group. And it's a lot of young people and, young professionals, retired people alike. So it's a great club. And we have a meeting coming up this Tuesday. It's the first Tuesday of every month. So I can drop some information in the chat in case anyone's interested in calling in.
I put it in chat. It's May 3rd, right?
Yeah, first Tuesday of the month, if that's May 3rd. I don't
And I
have it.
put that they email srvclimate@gmail.com to get the link for the meeting.
You got it. That's the one. Thank you, Brody, for doing that. Yeah, thanks for the time and space. And we meet at 7. We try to keep it on.
Any other announcements? No.
I mean, nothing regarding the climate club.
No, I mean, any other announcements? I don't know. Okay.
Yeah, well,
Okay. And let's see. So then,
You're running, aren't you, Sarah?
yeah. I wasn't sure if I was like allowed to share that on
Of
this
course you
Sure,
are.
I didn't know if you
Of
were ready to announce.
It's not like the first time we've ever seen you.
Absolutely. Okay, thank you, Rick. I
Put
appreciate.
your link in chat.
I am ready. Yeah, I'm ready. I'm announced, and I want to share with as many people as possible. So yeah, thank you, Rick and Brody. I am running for San Ramon City Council District 2, and the election is this November. I'll drop my website in the chat. And if you're unfamiliar with who I am, on my website, you can actually schedule a 30-minute Zoom chat with me. So if you want to have some one-on-one time and just get to know each other better, you can do that through my website. But I would really love to, chat more about it with each and every one of you. And I'm a first-time candidate as well. So I want all the advice I can get. And I'm just really appreciative of this opportunity. So I'll
Are you
drop my
taking
website.
Donations?
I sure am. Thank you for asking. You can also do that through my website. I have an up and running Act Blue account. And I've been I officially kind of announced online last week, and I'm really honored and humbled at the support I've gotten so far. I also have a campaign kickoff event happening next Wednesday evening. It's virtual, it's on Zoom. So if you're free next Wednesday at 6 p.m., I'd love if you could attend. The registration link is also on my website. So I will drop all these links in the chat right now. It'd be amazing to see some of you there, if not absolutely each and every one of you there. And again, reach out, schedule a Zoom call with me, send me an email, whatever you're comfortable with. But I'd love to talk to you more and get to know you. So thank you.
We're very excited.
Thank you for the floor. I really appreciate sharing this with all of you.
Is your opponent, the current one, is he a Democrat or a Republican? Do you know?
I don't know. It's maybe someone in this room knows better than I do.
Is it Mark Armstrong?
Yeah.
Yes.
Rick, do you know if he's a Democrat or Republican? We have to have an endorsement committee meeting if he's a Democrat.
I really don't know. I mean, he's got a military background. He was in he went to West Point, and so you tend to think maybe he's a Republican, but there's no tried and true about that.
Do we have? Yeah, I know. I think.
But I know. I mean, the mayor, I think, really liked him, and the mayor is definitely a Republican, so he's probably more.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably likely to be a Republican.
That's what I was going to mention. Thank you, Rick. And also the incumbent Mark Armstrong and I both interviewed for the special appointment last year. So he's a first-time appointed city council member, and having been involved, I was involved with that candidate forum last year as well. And that was my introduction to a lot of the people in this room, actually. So yeah, there is a YouTube video of that appointment process as well if you want to see it. But to answer your question, Brody, I'm not entirely sure. I can't say with confidence.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, we're real excited that you're running. I think it's wonderful.
I don't think Dave Hudson would want a Democrat, to be honest with you.
Oh, I think you might be right.
Yeah, I really think he's tends to be more conservative, but
I've had a lot of really humbling conversations with some present and past members of the San Ramon City Council, including the former mayor. I asked for a phone call with him 2 years ago, and then I spoke with basically everyone who's on the City Council now when I was applying for the appointment process and going through that. And I got a lot of really unadulterated feedback, and it made me understand better who they're looking for to be on the City Council. And if anything, it was just fantastic, fuel and feedback, And I know that the city council, it has to be crafted by the people who live in the city, not by the city council. So I appreciated all the feedback that they gave me, whether it was constructive or destructive or positive or negative.
Well, you did very well in the interview, I remember.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I really think they look at what committees you've been on, though. I mean, that's very important so that they kind of know who you are and they've maybe dealt with on these committees. And once you do that, I think probably you have a better shot at it. So and I know you're in a, forgot what the committee is you're on, but you're already.
Mhm. Yes, I am on the Innovation and Technology Advisory Committee.
Mhm.
And that's been a really cool experience. And innovation and technology is also like it's such a fantastic avenue for progress from my perspective. So it's been great serving on that committee, and hopefully I'll be able to harness some of what I've learned and channel that into my campaign as well.
Yeah. So everyone, please go to Sarah's website that she posted in chat. Yes. And they
Good.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I look forward to hopefully sharing more with you as the campaign progresses. And
Yeah.
again, please reach out.
Yeah. Okay. Valerie Slobin, are you there? Valerie does some she works with the homeless people. I thought she might have some interesting things to tell us. Okay, I don't think she's there.
No, I am.
Oh, good, you're here. Okay, do you have anything to tell us? Tell us about your work and what you do. And
Well, I actually started a new position last November.
okay,
I've worked with the homeless community for about 17 years now. So in that time, I've done various jobs. One of the most satisfying to me was being an outreach worker. And I did that for 4 years, where I would go into the encampments and connect clients to resources and services in housing, shelter. I did that for 4 years, mainly in the west part of the county.
that's wonderful.
Yeah, I loved it.
What cities are in the west part of the county?
What did you say, Bodie?
What cities are in the west part? What cities?
Oh, Richmond, San Pablo, El Cerrito, El Sobrante. That was my area, North Richmond. I've worked out there for about 8 years and all.
Wow.
But I've changed positions now. I have arthritis in my knee and I'm getting up there in years. So I exchanged my hiking boots for a desk. So I'm now a case manager at the Concord Adult Shelter, which I love also. I'm very busy.
What do you do there? What do you, I mean,
Pretty much the same kind of work. I connect clients who are in the shelter. They can stay for 4 months, sometimes longer. I connect them to benefits, general assistance, social security. I'm actually working with the medically fragile homeless community right now. The Concord shelter has a medical facility next door to the shelter where a lot of our homeless clients have, they've been hospitalized. They're ready to be discharged. We don't want to discharge them to the street, so they come to the respite for medical assistance. We have a nursing staff, we have doctors there. It's a wonderful place.
how long are they allowed to stay at the shelter? I mean, like a week, 2 weeks, or?
No, you can stay at the shelter for 4 months. That's contingent upon you following a case plan. Sometimes we have clients who stay longer. As you can imagine, it's challenging to house people these days. It has been for many years. So we really have to, we struggle sometimes to place some of our clients into housing, and we don't want to discharge them to the street. So sometimes they stay longer than 4 months.
Yeah.
But that is the average time. And if they are medically fragile, they're often at the respite for about 6 weeks until they've stabilized. And then if they don't have a housing plan, they move over to the Concord shelter.
How many people does the Concord shelter hold?
We have about 60. Now, before COVID, we had about 75 to 80 beds. But one of the silver linings of COVID was the opportunity, because they closed down the congregate shelters, was the opportunity to do some remodeling, rethinking. So we now, all our clients now have like a small cubby that holds a twin size bed and a desk and a chair, and it has a door and walls. And it's just made a tremendous difference to morale, to just the environment at the shelter. But because of that, we did lose beds. So we lost about 20, 25 beds.
Yeah, that's great. They did that remodeling to give them a little cubby to sort of a little private place to be.
Yes.
Wow. Valerie, you do wonderful work.
Oh.
That is so wonderful.
Well, thank you. And one other thing, our clients are allowed to take their pets with them also.
Oh, yeah, that's good, because
Yeah,
I think a
so
lot of
we
people
have-
won't
yeah.
go into the shelter because they can't take their pet. Yeah, so
Absolutely.
very good.
So some good things happening. So thank you for asking, Brody.
Yeah, yeah.
Hey,
Okay.
Valerie, have you associated with Kevin Adler? He's a homeless advocate that he was a speaker at Rotary Club a couple weeks ago. I don't know if you've ever heard.
No, I don't recognize that name. No.
Okay. But he's been instrumental in getting, homeless reconnected with their families, and having them use, helping them with social media so they can communicate, or phoning, and, helping them.
That is so important.
Yeah.
Whenever I see a homeless person who looks like they're in distress, they're, obviously mentally ill, I always wonder, is there someone looking for them? It's someone's son, brother, daughter. And a few weeks ago, we had the opportunity, we had a young man in our shelter who was severely mentally impaired. He was really struggling with us.
Mhm.
And he gave us a phone number, and it turned out to be his mom in Seattle, Washington. And she was delighted to hear from us. She was
fantastic.
worrying about her son. He had gotten on a bus, and he ended up in Northern California in our shelter. And we were able to put him on a train
Oh, great.
to Seattle, and called his mom a couple of days later. And she said, yes, he's here sleeping on the floor.
Oh, that's.
He was
oh,
just
that's
exhausted, and
wonderful.
just that's where.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
So, yeah, so it's important that we do take the time to get to know people's stories, how, why are they
Yeah.
on the street? Do
I
they
think some of them are just ashamed at their situation, and
Yeah.
they don't realize how much their family really wants to connect. And
Exactly.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's such wonderful work. Thank you so
yes,
much, Valerie, for
nothing
sharing.
better.
Thank you.
Well, it's going to be almost, it's 8:30. I think we, I don't know if we have anyone else probably that wants to say anything. But anyway, thank you so much for being here and for staying till the end and hearing everyone's information and stories. So
Thanks, Brody.
yes, hopefully next month we're gonna have RBK.
Good.
And I can't wait to find out about all the legislation that's been passing at the state level. So that'll be great.
She's a dynamo.
Okay, thank you so much, everyone.